Okay. Now starting the August 2nd, 2018 Planning Commission meeting. Mr. Kane, will you take roll?
Daly, Friedrich.
Here.
Honig.
Here.
Horgan.
Here.
Irwin.
Here.
Kostreva.
Here.
Leash.
Here.
Ortman.
Here.
Rise.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Kane. Next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Next item of the agenda is approval of the minutes.
Move that we approve the minutes of June 28th, regular meeting as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is Zoning Board of Appeals report. Commissioner Friedrich?
Madam Chairman, we did not meet last month.
Thank you. And next item on the agenda is communications.
Madam Chair, there are no communications this evening.
Thank you. And next item on the agenda is public hearings, SUP 1809. Mr. Kane?
Madam Chair, I would just note the applicant for this case is not in the audience this evening. I know in the past, the Planning Commission has typically deferred action on cases when the applicant is not present. So I would suggest that you at least have a consideration of doing that this evening before I give my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Kane. Would anyone like to make a motion to defer the hearing?
Basically looking for a motion to postpone.
Or motion to postpone?
I will motion to postpone. Second.
Any discussion? And would it be my understanding we're just postponing to the next hearing date? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is public comment. If anyone in the public would like to speak, now would be the last opportunity to do so. Seeing no one, I'm closing public comment. And next item on the agenda is new business, economic development action plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Enclosed in your packet was a copy of a draft economic development action plan that's been prepared by the city's economic development department. This is one of the two remaining steps in the city's effort to become certified under the Redevelopment Ready Communities program. The city does currently have an economic development action plan that was adopted in 2008 that has not and had not been updated since that time, so almost 10 years. So this plan represents an update to that 2008 plan. The intention here was to produce an update to the plan that would meet the standards of the RRC program, while also recognizing that we're about to engage in a master planning process as a community, and so doing a full-fledged from scratch rewrite of the plan, it was not really the most conducive timing to do so. So we would anticipate that this update will be folded into the upcoming master plan update, and that a full new plan will be incorporated with the overall master plan upon its adoption in 2020. It's before you tonight to see if there are any comments or questions about that plan before it's taken forward to the City Commission for consideration of endorsement. They're looking to take action on that potentially at their next regular meeting, which I believe is on August the 13th. So I'd welcome any questions or comments you'd have on that. I'd be happy to pass those along to the Economic Development Department for inclusion in the plan.
Thank you, Mr. Kane. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Under key demographics, it talked about they use the 2010 census, which counts both full-time residents as well as a portion of the CMU student population, depending on where they declare their residency. Is that off-campus housing or?
Per the census regulations, when you declare your residency on the census, it should be where you live on census day, which is August 1st of the census year. So students, as of August 1st, 2010, if the student was residing in Isabella County, in Mount Pleasant, in Union Township, wherever that might be for school, that is where they should fill out their census information, even if their driver's license may reflect their home in Rochester Hills or somewhere else in the state of Michigan. They should be reflecting their address as either their dormitory or their off-campus apartment or house, whatever the case might be, wherever they were residing that day.
That day. But you also just said something about Union Township. Union Township's not figured into this.
Not into these demographics. My point was simply that if a student was residing in Union Township, they would report that as their place of residency when they filled out their census paperwork. This statement really just reflects what we've known, and we haven't necessarily been able to get a abundance of clarity on, which is that students are typically one of the populations that are poorly counted in the census because of misunderstandings about if you asked most students where they lived, they typically consider their hometown where they're from. And so parents will count students on their census forms, even if they're not residing in the home on census day, and vice versa. Students will underreport themselves or will report themselves as living elsewhere. So we assume that our population number is slightly deflated as a result of that undercount.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just wondering about, I see that there is one point that's looking to address to increase or encourage more housing opportunities for young professionals, and I was wondering if there were more specifics towards that other than, it looks like one of them was specific to the fire code kind of things and helping to redevelop the upstairs, the second floor apartment space or spaces into living spaces, but what kind of things would we be able to do, or could we look at encouraging the property owners to help make sure that that housing is specific to more young professionals versus students? And
Sure. So the program that you mentioned, the city's Central Business District Tax Increment Finance Authority significant change from that, but those are some steps we've already taken. With the new master plan update, one of the things the city commission's asked us to do is to do a more, as a department, as a planning department, to do a more complete analysis of our current housing stock to identify where we may be oversupplied in certain areas and undersupplied in others, so that we have a more objective analysis of what the current conditions are and where we might need to use some policy levers to increase supply, or maybe reduce restrictions on certain things, or increase incentives to build certain types of housing. So, great question, though.
Any other questions?
When it comes to these redevelopment liquor licenses, I see that's listed quite highly in the strategy, and it's sort of tied to the 7% vacancy rate in downtown. I call it Old Downtown. Is there any statutory or or limiter on the amount of liquor license that could go into downtown? I mean, is it based upon population? Is it based upon a static number? Just, I mean, could there be another 10 restaurants with liquor licenses in old downtown Mount Pleasant?
Yes, there could.
There could?
The redevelopment liquor license program helps to overcome the population-based caps that exist under the traditional liquor license program. And so as you probably already know, within the city, there's only a certain number of licenses that are possible to obtain under state law. The redevelopment liquor license program was meant to stimulate redevelopment in certain key areas of communities, and this was a means of incentivizing location of restaurants and other things in those areas. So there is not a numeric cap. It's certainly there's a practical cap just on the basis of where vacancies are located, but we have seen offhand, I know at least one restaurant in our downtown has taken advantage of that redevelopment liquor license program, which is Dog Central, in the time that I've been with the city. And I'm, of course, on the spot trying to think through quickly if there's anybody else downtown who's part of that program. I believe there are a couple other restaurants that took advantage of that prior to my arrival in the city. So yeah, so there would not be a numeric limit.
And I am gratified. I am gratified that somebody recognized downtown, I call it old downtown, it's very, very high on the list of priorities in terms of proper and new development.
Was this help with fire suppression one of these work with developers to explore available alternatives to keep lease rates competitive? Was that part of that conversation? And if not, what are available alternatives to help control development costs in order to keep lease rates competitive?
That's a good question. Which page are you on? So I can understand the context of page 4.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the second item in the 5th bullet.
Yeah, I would say that's exactly it. There's a variety of programs that the city has offered and does offer that would fall within that desire to control development costs. So we have partnerships with the state of Michigan on rental rehabilitation. So we've brought funds to the city in the past, and we are and have worked with folks who own properties downtown to take advantage of that program. That's a program that helps to bring renovation money forward for folks who are creating apartments in downtown areas. The facade improvement program is something that we've had for a number of years where folks can take advantage of a city grant to obtain new facade renderings in order to update the appearance of their building. And ultimately, if they follow through with that facade improvement, they don't have to pay that cost back to the city. So those are some of the programs we've used. Really the intention being that we want to be able to get the investment, but not have that investment lead to a unsupportable rent structure. So,
how does the facade help keep the rent down?
Well, the design program is intended to offset the cost of hiring a design professional to make the improvement. Okay. And so, to the extent you can, some of those facade improvements can be expensive, and some can be relatively affordable. And so if you have an affordable facade improvement, you're able to offset the design cost. That might cut your budget, in a half or a quarter and help to keep the overhead that you have to pass on to your tenants down.
Does that get used a lot?
It gets used here and there. I believe we have 2 downtown properties that are currently pursuing renderings, and we're fairly optimistic that there are property owners that will follow through with the implementation.
Is the city not talking about some serious capital expenditures for the new apartments? Is it parcel B, our parcel B? Yeah.
The city has a development agreement with a developer who's interested in building something next door, but we don't at this point have any idea of what, if any, incentives that they may look for from the city or the state to make that project feasible. So at this point, it's likely that they'll ask for some sort of incentive, but we don't know what that would be.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
No, I think this plan is pragmatic, and it looks frankly at, opportunities and challenges and provides a good overview of strategies forward. So nothing else I would have to say about that.
Thank you. Is any action required for this?
No, thank you. I appreciate your feedback and questions.
Next item on the agenda is the staff report. Mr. Kane?
I got some time to fill. So in terms of our September meeting, obviously we will have at least one case from our postponement this evening of 1711 South Mission. We also already have an application in for a liquor license, for a merchant license for the Speedway gas station at Michigan and Mission Streets. You'll recall we've had several similar applications over the past year. This was actually the gas station that started the ball rolling on this process, so they may be the last ones through, but we'll be considering that SUP at the September meeting. At this point, those are the only two cases I'm aware of that will be on your agenda. That evening, you'll likely also be asked to make a recommendation on a consultant selection for the master plan project. Just a reminder that I will see you before September 6th, Wednesday, August 15th at 7 o'clock. We have a special meeting to interview consultants for the master plan project. We received 8 bids for the project, and we had an RFP committee meet this week. Thank you to Commissioners Honig and Friedrich for serving on that committee. The committee ultimately recommended that we bring McKenna and Associates and Wade Trim forward for interview. You have your meeting packets tonight. I apologize that I'm used to we meet on Thursdays, so we'll fix the agenda before your electronic packet comes out tomorrow. But just remember that it's a Wednesday night. It says Thursday on your agenda, so that's my mistake. We will be interviewing McKenna first. There are interview questions in your packet, as well as a copy of the RFP that was sent out that they're responding to, and a copy of each firm's proposals. So I'd encourage you to take some time to review those proposals, see what questions or comments you have. If you have any questions for me about the process, feel free to reach out between now and the 15th, and I'd be happy to answer those. For those of you who were here when we did zoning ordinance consultant interviews, the format of this evening is largely the same. We will give the firms an opportunity to make a presentation to you about their firm's qualities and why they would be the best firm to hire for the project. We have as I said, 9 questions set that the committee provided input on that your chairperson will ask of the consultant firms. And then there'll be an opportunity at the end of that for the commission, staff, and any other attendees to ask follow-up questions of the firm. And once again, I wouldn't expect that we'll ask the planning commission. You won't be asked to take any action that night, just simply to interview. We'll let you think through what you heard, and we will hope to be able to make a unanimous recommendation on September 6th. The only other thing I wanted to let you all know is it's been a while since we've had kind of a one-on-one touching base meeting between you and I. And so I'm going to reach out in the next couple of days to attempt to schedule just like a 30 to 45 minute opportunity for us to sit down and talk about your training goals, any questions or concerns you have about your participation on the Planning Commission, and just to make sure that you're being supported in every way that you need to be a successful member of the commission. So just look for that. If any of the scheduling offerings that I provide don't meet your schedule, let me know, and we'll find something that works I'll make it work for you before I make it work for me. So that's all I have, and I welcome any questions from the commission before we adjourn.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Kane?
Nice suit.
No,
Thanks.
no, but I have an interesting item. You probably know, tomorrow at mid-morning, CMU announces their new president, and it's going to be in the library, CMU's library, in that side auditorium. And I think it's just a big event for the community who that president is. I've not heard one thing, and I'm very interested in, aren't you? Okay, particularly you, Mr. Leash, who are a professor.
Yep.
You know. And it's open to the public. I read that in today's Morning Sun. So.
You talked about training. Is there any requirements that a board member do, you know how you did this other thing to be certified? Is there any requirement to help with certifications for board
There's-
members to be trained?
You are not required to train or learn or read anything while you're on the planning commission. However, you are obviously strongly encouraged to do what you can, as much as you can, to further your knowledge about planning so that you can serve effectively. So, I say that both because I want to constantly encourage you to do that, and I know this is my job, so it's easy for me to get training because this is what I do. And you all have lives and jobs and family outside of this. So I want to just keep it as a priority and make sure that you know that there are opportunities in the city can help to support those. And if we need to bring it to you or bring some funding to bear to make it happen, we're happy to do that. So that's why I like to touch base, because if I hear common threads that everybody's got questions about the same thing or things, we can try to accomplish those together in a work session or by bringing a trainer here rather than forcing you all to hop around and go in 12 directions to get the same information. So, so that's really the purpose. Obviously, if in a perfect world, I would set training goals for you. Have you all set a training goal every year? And I would be happy if you want to do that, to help you do that and to help you achieve it. So, great question.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Kane. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.